Heidi ho there. Whoa. Saw the levels go right through the ceiling. Heidi ho there, Stratosphere Lounge fans. This is Bill Whittle, and you are here in Stratosphere Lounge, episode 78, the questions I would ask my 18-year-old self edition. And as you can see from the wreckage behind us here, we're just about done. We're just about done with all of this stuff. Just doing a little bit of trim work over yonder, just the final trim on that accent wall, and you see a little bit of frog tape right there on that wall, cleaning up the last of it. I don't know if you can see them, but they got these. I'll go the other way. We got this wicked cool kind of little dinette set there in the background. They're orange and gray chairs, and they're pretty bitchin'. We got our super bad set of Captain Kirk chairs there ready for interviews. And for those of you who may have seen the Facebook page, we have this. That, boy, these levels are kind of hot today. That, my friends, is the Stratosphere Lounge banner that I've been checking on, and I think I'm going to have to turn these volume levels down a little bit. I of course couldn't get the headphones to work today. Ustream is never the same twice. So, but you're digging those chairs in the background, and then we got these banners. So, give you an idea of the size of that banner. That banner there is going to go right on that wall yonder, right across there. And then if we go back to the banner picture, little cutout homunculus Bill is back, going to be offset off of the Stratosphere Lounge thing, just like the regular logo. So he's going to come off and have a little glow around him. And we may have to build a couple of risers for those chairs. I normally don't hold the mic this close, but on the other hand, I often do. So that's going to be really cool. And then over here, we're still getting stuff together. We're going to have our green screen section over there. But then we're going to put the real cameras up. Going to get a couple of Blackmagic 1080 cameras with a 422 color space for those of you nerds and geeks out there who know what that means. And then we'll start shooting the show on a real camera instead of on this webcam. And things should look pretty cool from that point forward. Astra Girl will be here to switch the show. We'll have a wide and a close-up, and then if we have a guest, we'll have 2 close-ups and maybe 3 camera shoots. So it's going to get better, and we're almost there. I don't think next Wednesday, but the Wednesday after that, I'm pretty sure we're going to be good to go. I didn't have them ready, so I want to show you something. I'm going to just have to go find them. Hang on one second. Don't anybody go away, because these are really cool, too, before we get started. We got a really fun show tonight, too. Hang on. You're going to like these a lot. Don't go away. Stay tuned. In fact, I'll do a little running narration. Picked up some stuff since I saw you guys last. And it's all pretty groovy. Weighs a ton. Check it out. Are you ready? Up. Color balance. Go back. Something's happened to my jaundice-colored skin. Still don't like it. Okay, how about that? Well, you walk away from a camera for 5 minutes and see, this is one of the things that I'm really looking forward to about getting the new cameras. We won't have to do this all the time. That's better. Okay, so check it out. As you already know, a few of you have said this the first time on the show. You get to see how amazingly well produced it is live. But it's kind of the charm of the thing, I think. It's a charm for me because it means I don't have to work so hard. So check it out. I had, on the old Stratosphere Lounge, as you may remember, we had a couple of Sid Mead paintings on the wall offset with a little glow. Well, we're going to still do the little glow, but instead of 2 of them, we got a bunch. So I just have to hold this up just so you guys can get a quick look here. These are all going to be on the walls here in the Stratosphere Lounge. Maybe a little shiny with the plastic on, and they'll have the background glow and all that other stuff. But with that said, check it out. Ready? Can you see that? That's better. That little blonde kid is me, leaning in the windows, getting ready to buy our nuclear-powered, rover. Nuclear-powered RV is what I meant to say. This is Sid Mead at work, ladies and gentlemen. Here's one I like an awful lot. Let me move the mic around a little bit. This one, boy, it's hard to get the reflections off. This one is me coming home from a hard day of punditry, out of my into my space age bachelor pad from my nuclear-powered sedan down below, checking out my awesome, super hot blonde babe wife there, who's I don't know, she's got yellow gloves on, so I guess she's ready to head out for the evening. Teenagers over there on screen left, buffing up his little nuclear-powered sports car, so that's pretty cool. This one is really amazing. Here we are out at the lake with our little car and our awesome, I think it's levitating car. And then a little further downstream, another steely-eyed missile man playing some kind of advanced form of paddleball. And there's no regulations and no signs that say no fishing or diving allowed because these people know how to swim. And yeah. So I have 4 that are kind of daylight kind of Sid Mead things. And they're going on the gray walls in the background. This one I just adore. Check this out. There I am, young tow-headed boy of 17, Johnny Quest himself, hopping into my super badass nuclear-powered mono gyro race car, seeing if I can put an 800-mile-an-hour lap down before we get ready for the real race. So that's pretty cool. So those are the ones that are against the gray walls in the background. But up in front of my desk, which you won't be able to see, but I will. I get to see it every day. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 more along the lines of the other 2, which are Sid Mead kind of at night. Those are kind of like daylight shots. These next 4 are him at night. And the reason I like Sid Mead at night so much is because his colors, I mean, he's just incredible. So I'll just show you these real quick. Here we are on our nuclear-powered cars on our way from New York to Boston at 250 miles an hour, zooming along in our super clean future world. There's the local ramp up ahead. There's the road to New York, and there's the one to Boston. And look at that black beauty. Baby, that's awesome. This one is making no apologies. Check it out. It's actually hard to see this one. It's just the front of a car. It's in this incredible purple. It's, I mean, just look at that thing. People in the background, just a dinner party. Everybody's cool. This one I found at the last minute, 2 to go. I'll save that one for last because it's just so cool. This one is pretty neat. If you happen to be in an accident at 400 or 500 miles an hour, never fear. The future paramedics are ready for you in their giant U-shaped Millennium Falcon emergency ambulance. But just look at seriously now. Just look at the colors on that. I mean, he's got purples and reds and that orange, and it's fantastic. Fantastic. And this one, here we go. This one's pretty cool. I haven't seen this one. I had the other ones picked out for months, but this one I had never actually even seen before. Oh my God. Would you just look at that? Would you just look at, and again, just look at how bold those colors are. Black car, red background, everybody in the back, the dudes in the back there checking it out like, yeah, hey, no problem. How much for this? $740,000, sir, brand new. I'll take 2. I love my Sid Mead. What can a fella say? What can a fella say? I just love him. I love him. I think he's great, and the future is going to be. We're gonna make this future happen. We're gonna make a decision to make it happen. So that's what we're gonna do. And then so just to check out one more thing here, if you look closely, you can see on the left side of the screen there what is a life-size cutout of Astro Girl. And we're going to trim away all the white, offset it from the wall, mount it against a rigid background, offset it against the wall, and that's going to be what you see when you walk in to the front against the orange. It's going to be wicked cool. Ustream is showing like 7-hour commercials now or something. Yeah, Jane, his wife. This is Meet George Jetson. I flew over L.A. I don't know, about a week ago, a little longer than that, 2-3 weeks ago, in the little Sky Arrow. And when you're flying over Sky Arrow at nighttime, it's like George Jetson in that little thing, little bubble canopy, and you just see the grid unfolding. Anyway, that was fun. So let's get to the show, because I think these are great questions. Really, really, really great questions. A great suggestion from somebody. I should have written down the name. I'm so sorry. The show theme for tonight is, we're going to have to do a relatively short one, about an hour from now, about an hour, 15, 20, something like that. What would you tell your 18-year-old self? That's really awesome. It's an awesome topic. So let's get started, shall we? Michael Hanna asks, what would you tell your younger self was your biggest worthless time sink? It's a person's name, and I can't give it on the air, but I would have said, don't do that. I probably can come up with a better answer than that, something that I can actually talk about. Boy, I'm trying to decide. I don't actually have any memories of something that I just spent years on that I just went, oh my God, this was a terrible mistake. I really feel like they were all learning experiences. Somebody just said, just in the comment section, just in case you're wondering, there on YouTube, again, who is the artist? And that is all the work of the great futurist. I think the guy invented the essentially the format. His name is Sid Mead, S-Y-D-M-E-A-D, and he is absolutely astonishing. I don't have any giant worthless time sinks other than a few individuals whose names I could mention but won't. And, of course, that's not their fault. That's my fault. But by and large, I have to say, to my utter astonishment, let's bring it up just a little bit in here, that even though I've often felt like a lot of the time I spent wasn't getting me exactly where I wanted to go, I wouldn't say any of it was really wasted either. I just spent a lot of time wandering the wilderness, but I was paying attention when I was out there. And I went in a lot of different places. I saw a lot of different things. For instance, probably the most, I did 4 years as a limo driver. And on some level, that was just like, my God, I just spent 4 years, and what did I do? As it turns out, as a limo driver, I spent 4 years talking with like the top executives in the country. I didn't do any of the stretch limousine stuff. I used to ride executives from Pasadena to LAX in a town car, and I learned an awful lot from those guys. So for all of it, I would say it was actually pretty worthwhile. Isaac Tiemans asked, what would you tell your 18-year-old self he was actually right about? That's a nice relief, because there's a bunch of things I was wrong about. I was right about America. I was right about the military. I was right about the business. I was right about, I think I was right about the Apollo future. I think I was right about the space age attitude. I think I was right about these things. I think they're worthwhile and important, and they matter. All of them matter. When I was a kid, if the question really truly is what would I ask my 18-year-old self, or say to my 18-year-old self, then my 18-year-old self would have been just a few weeks away. Oh my God. Oh dear. Sorry. I was just distracted. I was intentionally distracted by an extremely evil person who who has the power to do that. And we'll probably get back to that later. I have to turn this off because I cannot do the show if this is on. My goodness gracious. You poor people who aren't me. Back to business. My 18-year-old self was right about being a fighter pilot, and I was heartbroken about it. I think the first thing I would probably tell my 18-year-old self about being right about was that even though you didn't get to go and do what you wanted to do, even though you didn't get to fly the jets that you wanted to, it was the right thing to do. It was an important thing to do. And that desire and the years you spent on it will never let you down. By the time I failed, it wasn't. I wasn't surfing porn. No, I wasn't surfing porn. Something like that was surfing me. In any event, I think, in all seriousness, from the age of 5 to the age of 17, when I went for the Air Force Academy physical, I built every single plastic model in the U.S. inventory. I had 1/72nd scale F4s. I had 4 of them, and they were all peeling off. There was a B-52, 1/72nd scale B-52, 1/72nd scale C-130, and the F4s were breaking off, and I had a couple of F-100s in like high cover. I had a giant family room, and then on the far side, I had I think like a wedge of like 6 MiG-21s coming in, and so I built every single airplane in the inventory. I built every single tank in the inventory. I built all of the weapon systems. I got a brief period where I was into the ships and everything, and that military familiarity never left me. I always stayed fascinated in it, and I never lost interest in it, and that gave me a tremendous background in the military. So I would say being wanting to be a fighter pilot, wanting to join the military of any kind would have been really, really great, and I would not have regretted that. I would have told my 18-year-old self I actually got that right. I also would have told my 18-year-old self that you got it right when you were trying to raise money to get movies made instead of trying to get grants to make movies made. We would go to people, with my patron primarily, the guy who I've told you so many times about, the guy who was in My Friend Failure, the geologist. But basically, our attitude from the get-go as students was, as young filmmakers, was, how do we sell this film so that we can make more money than it costs? How can we make a return on investment for this guy? Because even though we didn't make a return on investment, we that was our mindset. It was our mindset from the beginning to be in the business of making a profit and running a company that was financially profitable. I never, ever, ever had the slightest doubt about America. I never had the slightest doubt of business, and I never had the slightest doubt about the military. I was just raised to believe that stuff, and I loved it, and I never, ever got over it. So I think I got those 3 things right. I think I got the fundamental belief in America right. I had, by the time I was 18, I had a friend who was a escapee from Cuba, but I had a very dear friend, a very influential friend, who was a poet who escaped from Bulgaria. And he told me what daily life under communism was like. Just the daily, you have to wait in line to 5 hours in the snow to see if there's anything in the store, that kind of thing. Just the general total disregard for human life. So I got the fundamentals right. It's only after I got to be 18 that I went off to college and started to make all kinds of mistakes, and we got some questions to deal with that later. Patty Ann says something which I wanted to read anyway, so it's not a question, as she says. But Patty Ann says, "Hey, Bill, not a question, but I wanted to let you know that I once told my daughter about your advice to young people to go to work early and stay at work late, even if they don't have a job for you, and eventually they'll make a job for you." Well, she did exactly that, and it worked. She mentioned it just a couple of days ago, and I told her she had Bill Whittle to thank for that. So thank you from my daughter, Claire. It was great advice. Claire, congratulations. I told you it would work, and I wish I could tell you I came up with it, but I didn't. It's a simple piece of wisdom that everybody gets who's successful. And it's not work to stay at a job you love. So if you're going to use this strategy of getting started someplace and working for free and coming in early and staying out late and not getting paid. For God's sakes, make sure it's something you love. If you want to be a dancer, make sure it's at the theater. If you want to be a fireman, and volunteer at the fire station. If you just want a job, then go anywhere and do it, and I guarantee you it will work. And it worked like a charm for me back in 1974. And hard work then still was fairly common. If you tried that today, I guarantee you'll run that business in a year. It's let me just say this very, very quick digression here. This attitude of going in early, staying late, working hard, and asking for more responsibility without additional pay until you can prove that you can do the job, it's like one of the laws of nature. It's like Bernoulli's principle or the law of gravity or any of these constants. It's a physical force of nature. It's like the actual market. Things cost what they cost. You can set a price too high or too low, and it doesn't matter. The market, there'll be a black market or there'll be hoarding. So it's a fundamental law of nature. It works 60% of the time. It works all the time. I can't say it works every single time at every single place, but I can say that the plan, the strategy will succeed over time. And it's really just comes down to attitude. And people want to help people and want to hire people that want to work for them. And by going there early and staying late and offering to work for free, you're showing the people who are going to make the decision whether or not to hire you and whether or not they're going to pay for you. You are showing them that not only are you the best choice of anybody who might come in and apply for a job, you're coming in and working without even applying for the job. Who's not going to want to hire that person? Nobody's not going to want to hire that person. So Claire, I'm so proud of you. I'm glad you heard it from me. Spread it around. I didn't invent it, but God knows it sure does work. And congratulations. And Patty Ann, if you get a chance, send me a follow-up Facebook message. And if Claire's okay with it, just tell me what the job was. I'm actually really curious. I'm curious what it was she wanted that badly and what job she got and where she plans to go from there, because it's really terrific. Congratulations. Makes me happy. Stephen Ladine, I guess, says, what would you tell your 18-year-old self to prove that you are actually you? That is a fantastic question. I think there's probably another question. Yeah, there is. All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to combine two questions. Dave Olson asks, this is a quote from me to my 18-year-old self. Whatever you do, stay away from that girl. You know the one. Name optional. The name will stay optional. So the two questions I will combine. What I would do to prove to my 18-year-old self that I'm actually me is I would name that individual. Here's what I can tell you. And please stick around for the close of this, because it may not end the way you think it will. I think this is more true for boys than for girls, young men than young women. I'm not 100% sure, but it feels like it's more true. I was talking to my friend Jeremy one day, and I had... everybody has crushes, and everybody has a number of crushes. But for some guys, there's this one girl, and you can't explain it, and you don't know what it is, but there's one. And needless to say, I made a complete and flaming jackass out of myself. There's a line from The Simpsons where it's the episode back when it was funny, 25 years ago, where Milhouse is falling in love with Lisa. And she asks him to pass a note on to the guy who she really likes. And a little thought balloon comes up off of Milhouse's head and says, I know if I do everything she tells me, then she'll really respect me. And then it's like, I don't know if Conan O'Brien wrote that, but whoever wrote it had been there. So anyway, there are, I think for a lot of guys, that one, to say the one that got away is to imply that you had a chance in the first place. And frankly, I don't think you could have had a chance, because if you could have had a chance, I don't think this person would be the kind of person I'm talking about. So I'm going to get to a name here. So I'd actually had dreamed about this person for my entire life. Every 3 or 4 weeks, I'd have a dream, and the dream was always the same. And the dream wasn't like we'd sail off on a happy cruise together. The dream was we would meet and we'd be friends. We'd actually just be friends. And she could see that I wasn't the jerk I used to be, and I wasn't, kind of this skinny super geek, and I was doing well, and I was kind of making a name for myself, and I was all right, doing all right. That was it, basically. And then one day on Facebook, I looked her up and said hi and got back in contact after 30 years. And about, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks after this, she tells me she's getting divorced. And I told Jeremy, my friend, about this. And I said, this was the effect that this had on me. I said, Jeremy, I feel like I just got up this morning and I went to the kitchen and I was making myself a cup of coffee and I looked out the window into my backyard, and standing out there in the backyard in the middle of broad daylight was the unicorn. I didn't have to say a unicorn. I said the unicorn. And he instantly got it. And he told me a story about his unicorn that was simply the most impressive thing I've ever heard. I mean, I'm not going to give you any details of Jeremy's life other than to say he prepared for 4 years to win this person, not to seduce her, to win her. I've never seen anything like it. It was just enormously impressive. But that word stuck for both of us, and I think it's a great word, because if you're talking about that girl, the one that, not that got away, the one that you never could have had and you couldn't stop thinking about, unicorn is the perfect name for that creature, because the reason it's a unicorn is because it's unattainable. If you could have gotten it, then it wouldn't have been a unicorn. It would have just been some woman you missed. So, you know, I know, by the way, that they're running these ads, and bloody Ustream, these ads are getting from, they used to be 10-second ads, now they're running 3 minutes of ads or something. So for those of you who are watching on YouTube, you won't have any idea why I'm slowing down, but I'm going to wait for this thing to stop. There it is. Anyway, the unicorn is that girl that you had such a crush on, and the one that really burned herself into your heart, never ever got over. And the reason I call her the unicorn is because you never could have caught her. If you'd caught her, she would have turned into a puff of smoke. So the unicorn was suddenly single, and I went down and had a date with the unicorn, and I was, I don't know, so what, 4 years ago, something like that. And it was an awesome, 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 awesome date. It was great. It was great. And you know what's amazing? It was actually great for her too. It wasn't just me. It was actually, she had a wonderful time. I had a wonderful time. She ended up meeting somebody who she went on to marry, and is happier than can be. Far happier than she ever would have been with me. But it was nice. It was nice to finally, after all that time, to go out on an adult date and be charming and attractive and not be what I'd been all those years. So, happy ending all across the board. But if I had to go back, as the first question was, and tell my 18-year-old something to prove that it was really me from the future, I would say, we know all about this, and we know that the unicorn's name is... And I would know. So, moving on. Stephen Ledeen again. He's got 2 in a row. Says, suggestions on good habits to start while young? Yeah. Lots of good habits that I never picked up. I wish I'd been a lot neater. I actually think if I'd been going to the Air Force or something, I would have been considerably neater. I was never, ever one of those get up and make your bed kind of guys. But people who have that kind of discipline have discipline in other areas. That would have been one of the things I would have started. And I think, on balance, I would have disciplined myself to control my sleep schedule, because that's the one thing in my life that's really continues to really hurt me. I've always been a night owl from the time, I think I remember the first time I stayed up all night, I was probably 9 or 10 or 11. And then from that point forward, I never get to bed before 2 a.m. And sometimes I don't get to bed before 5 a.m. But 2 o'clock, 2:33, pretty much constant. And it's given me some time to sit and think and work and stuff like that. That's nice. It's quiet at night. I like that. I like the fact that you can go for a little ride or drive in the middle of the night and nobody's out there. I like the fact there's not a lot of noise. I like the dark. I'm into astronomy and things like that. I like it out there. But if I could have gotten a more regular schedule earlier, it would have been better. And I'm working on it now because I have to have it now. So I am getting up earlier and I'm going to bed earlier. As a matter of fact, I would say probably in the last 6 months I've been getting to bed earlier. 12:30, you know. If I'm in bed before 1 o'clock, that's an early night for me. And, yeah, you know, I have to get up earlier. And so that means I'm getting less sleep, and that means I'm a little more tired, and that can catch up with you. I'm working on that. But it's like turning the Titanic. I mean, there's a lot of momentum when you've got a sleep schedule that's been with you forever, for your entire life. So I am working on getting up earlier and getting to bed earlier and getting a little more sleep. And I'm actually happy with that. You know, I was never like a clubber or anything. And now the idea of like going out till 2 or 3 in the morning or 4 or 5 in the morning and drinking and going to clubs is like really revolting. But yeah, so I would say the best habit to start young for me would be a little more of a personal neatness discipline, and certainly a little more sleep discipline. Because that way I think people are mostly awake. One of the problems with having an irregular sleep schedule is that you're tired all the time sometimes. It's kind of like you're just perpetually jet lagged. And that has cost me a lot. Moving on. Catherine Hansen says, I suggest you sit yourself down and give yourself a stern talking to. Well, goodness knows I deserve it, Catherine. I think if I had to do it right at age 18, I hadn't quite gotten to college yet. I'm about to at age 18. And if I was going to give myself a stern talking to, it would sound something along the lines of, now you listen to me, you miserable lowlife punk. You are about to go and surround yourself with glamorous, interesting, exciting, charming, dynamic, fun, cool people named actors. And this is going to be a tremendously exciting experience for you. And you're going to love it. Just remember that they're combined, the theater department combined has an IQ of 80, and nothing that they believe in is true. Nothing. So knock yourself out, go on up there, have a good time, you know, swing with the cool kids and do all the fun stuff, but don't believe any of this crap, seriously. Because I got it right when I was a kid. I only turned into this liberal D-bag when I was in college, and the only reason I did it was because everybody else felt the same way. As I pointed out in that Firewall on a Brief History of Mental Illness, it's like, well, Ronald Reagan's going to destroy the country. Oh, okay. What do I know about Ronald Reagan? Nothing. So if I had to give myself a stern talking to, I think probably what I would say is be pretty precise, really. First of all, be, number one, eat something. I couldn't eat anything because I didn't have the money, actually. So that really wasn't in the cards. But I mean, really, seriously, it was really college years. I was like, we would, I had my friend Fritz and I had another friend Josh, and there were the three of us, and I don't know where we'd stumble on money, but pretty much every day for a couple years. Josh would show up, he'd have like $1.60, Fritz would have $1, and I might have 80 cents. I'm not making this up. Seriously, I'm not. Or I'd have $3 or some incredible windfall or something on me that day. And we'd combine our resources and we'd head over to Wov's and we'd see how many burgers we could get out of that. And I think I talked about bone burgers before. Bone burgers were a box of hamburgers that you could buy at a grocery store. They came 12 to a box, and I think the box of 12 probably cost like $3 or $2.80 or something like that. We called them bone burgers because they were gray, and when you put them on the skillet, they didn't turn pink. They just went gray. And the reason they were gray was because if you look at the box, it's like ingredients. Bone meal and then other things. But bone meal was number one. So I would just tell myself, eat some food, get some sun, go up there, have a great time, learn a lot from these people because there's a lot to learn from them. But remember, they're in the make-believe business and they're all absolutely bat guano crazy. And I would refine that a little bit only by adding, you have done a lot of research into things that you've actually taught about, and things maybe you haven't taught, but nevertheless, things you know really well. At 18, Bill, you've been lecturing, you've been doing astronomy lectures since you were 14 years old. You'd walk into a room, you'd turn the lights down, and in front of 325 people on a Friday night, you would put put a microphone around your neck and you would do an hour talking about constellations and the stars, and you do solar system things for the kids in the morning. You taught astronomy when you were 14 off the top of your head because you really, really know it. You really know it. You have a deep and wide understanding of it by now at age 18. You have a deep and wide understanding of the military and how the military works for an 18-year-old. That's an excellent background. I wasn't really into the history by this point yet. But what I would have said to myself is I would have said, so if you're going to say something about politics or something about the president or something about anything else, don't have the same level of confidence in things you know nothing about that you do in the things you know a lot about. Pretty cool. That would have been it. Just, certain things are true because you know the subject matter. Those things you can speak about with confidence. There are other things you know nothing about, and politics is one of those things you know nothing about. So don't you go running off, flapping your jaws about stuff that you don't know anything about. Learn something first. Read something first. Don't just do what everybody else is saying. Beth Larson in the comment section said that's an adorable image. I'm assuming she's talking about me doing star lectures when I was 13 or 14. I can make that image considerably less adorable for you. First of all, I was 6'1". I was about 120 pounds. I was wearing an electric blue blazer that was washed once a year, whether it needed it or not. I probably had a black turtleneck on, and I mean a high one too. I mean, like, this high. And the best part was, we didn't have lavalier mics or anything. We had we had a regular microphone, like a stage mic. But since we had to move around and run the console, we couldn't just have a mic stand. That mic had to move with us. And so somebody built something that the chief engineer at the planetarium called, it's awful, he called it the palsy brace. And what it was it was a piece of very heavy gauge wire, and you had to put it over your head, and it hung out here, and then right out here was like a thick rod with a mic stand thing. And so it basically meant that the mic would kind of hover with you like this. The mic was only slightly smaller than this, by the way. And you had this thing around your neck holding this microphone out in front of you. And yeah, that was glamorous and romantic, all right. But that's what I think I would have given myself a stern talking to about Catherine. I would have basically said, there are some things you know a lot about. Speak about those things with confidence. Learn things from other people, but don't make assumptions until you have some understanding of what those things are. And of course, no. I was the smartest guy in the room. Just ask me. And anything that I picked up just off the top of a head of beer or something at the Windjammer in Gainesville, Florida, I was suddenly an expert on. I knew nothing about it. Ridiculous. Moving on, Joshua Tiemann says, would you actually give the advice to young Bill on how to be confident and how to talk to the ladies when you know that this very advice would have steered you out of the wilderness, probably into the arms of a loving partner, and into a normal, relatively unremarkable life? If that's not the most profound question that's ever been asked on the show, I don't know what is. Wow. That's really almost uncomfortably on the money. You're right. You're right, Josh. If I'd given myself the advice I know now, first of all, if I went back to high school tomorrow, I'd own that place. I'd rule it. The unicorn would be my personal servant, and her job would be to carry my books from one classroom to another. If I went back there knowing what I know now, game over. With that said, I think you're absolutely right. I think if I'd been better at this, I probably would have been married earlier and would have met somebody lovely, and they would have taken me out of this walk through the darkness that I've been on for so many years before I found you guys through Eject and Afterburner and all the rest of it. And I probably would have missed this train. I would have probably been very much happier and considerably less fulfilled. And so maybe not so happy after all. And there's a happy ending on this, because I would not have gone through the grief and turmoil that I did go through. It's possible that the demons that were chasing me around in my 20s and 30s would have wrecked that marriage. In fact, not only possible, it's almost certainty. And who knows, maybe I would have been on my third or fourth or fifth marriage by now and would have had all that baggage and all that weight. What I do know is this. The path that I took was a difficult one, and now that I'm on the other side of the difficulties, I wake up every day utterly incapable of imagining that life could be this good. And every day I wake up, it gets a little tiny bit better. I'm sitting here in this room, for example, and when I hold up those pictures, because we showed the video of what this place looked like when we got started. We'll do a video tour when it's finished. It'll be finished in a couple weeks. And everything that I wanted to do is happening. And so all of that's good. But to go to the heart of your question about meeting somebody that would have taken me off the market and made me happy, that probably would have happened. But nobody did, because I didn't go back in time and give myself advice. So I had to learn how to do this late in life, which means that I didn't carry all that baggage. And the good news is, if I had done that, I wouldn't be where I am now. And if I wasn't where I am right now, I wouldn't have met the person who I think is just wicked cool. And she knows who she is. And we'll talk about that picture later. Yeah, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I would have been a much happier guy, and I would have been a much less interesting guy, and I would have been a much worse partner. Much worse. Because now I'm hell on wheels, ladies and gentlemen. Hell on wheels. Nothing like walking through the fire to get a little kind of Chipotle base going. Yeah. Did me a world of good. Strengthened me enormously. Hurt like the devil. Here we are. Happy as a clam. Jacob Belchak asks, a commercial. And if it's not one commercial, it'll be another 4.5 minutes. I got to keep moving, though, because we have the YouTube fans, and they can't be kept waiting. So, Jacob Belchak asks, how would you convince 18-year-old Bill to adopt the same conservative values as current age Bill? Wow. What an incredibly interesting question, and what an incredibly simple answer. I would have convinced 18-year-old Bill. Well, first of all, 18-year-old Bill had most of the conservative values that 55-year-old Bill has. It's 22-year-old Bill and 24-year-old Bill and 29-year-old Bill that probably needed a bit of a talking to. But what you're basically saying is your younger self. How would I have convinced my younger self to have these conservative values? Most of them, as I said, were already there. I never won a day when I didn't love the military, never won a day when I didn't love America, and I never won a day when I didn't think business was the way to go. So most of that was there. But in terms of all the rest of the crap I believed, I would have convinced myself to adopt conservative values by daring myself to do what I dare other people to do today. And that is, does this work? Which way are the rafts going? I think that's it. Honestly, I come to it every single time, probably every single show, but it's just the end of the argument, right? Which way are the rafts going, dummy? Which way are the rafts going? And you can apply that argument to just about anything. Watch what a market does. If I was going to talk to my younger self and try to convince myself of the foundation of these things, the first thing I would have said is, Bill, the reason they're conservative values is because they've worked for a long time. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's not something better, but it does mean that during the time that these values have become codified, lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of new ideas came and went, and they were horrible. So conservative ideas are ideals, and conservative philosophies and principles are principles because they work. Because if they didn't work, they would have been discarded, and they wouldn't have been maintained. They wouldn't have been conserved. So we conserve these things because they work. Single, monogamous relationships seem to be the way to raise the most capable, happy, successful, productive children. There may be a better way, but we haven't found it yet. And if there's a better way coming up, then everybody will be doing that. That argument in itself is really pretty much of a deal killer, because a deal maker, I suppose I should say. They're there because they work. Is there a better system than capitalism? I suppose it's possible. It hasn't come up yet. This is the best system we have so far. Does that mean we shouldn't try something new? Not necessarily, but it does mean that if we keep trying the same thing that everybody says is new, and every time we try it, there's 50 million people dead. If they tried it and there were 50 million people dead in the Soviet Union, and then oh no, we didn't do it right, and then they try it again in China and they say, oh, we killed another $50 million. Oh no, you didn't do it right. And then they try it, in Cuba and you kill 5 million people. No, you didn't do it right. You try it in Vietnam, you kill 7 million people. Didn't do it right. Try it in Cambodia, you kill 5 million or 7 million people. Didn't do it right. Comes a point when you start asking yourself, maybe we shouldn't be doing this at all if this is the way it turns out. How many times do we have to kill a few million people before we begin to realize maybe it can't be done right? That thought ever cross your mind? Maybe this is the end result of these kind of things. These are the kind of discussions I would have had with myself, and I was rational enough to get them. It's just no one ever talked to me about this stuff. I never heard it, never heard a word of it. And that was, again, folks, that was 79 when I got to college, 79, 80. So, it's gotten a lot worse since then. I think anybody with reason can understand these things. I did a speaking engagement last weekend. I'm going out again coming weekend. Then I'm home for a while. And I had a couple of young Republicans at the first event I did on Saturday. And I had some young people at the second one too. And at the second one especially, they came up to me afterwards and they were like blown away. Now they were inclined, right? I mean, they were on our team. But they said, we used to not, we just discovered this conservative thing just a little while ago. And man, you if you speak at colleges, you'll change the world. And I think when they were talking about it, they said, it's not just that the way you put things are very simple and easy to understand, but you're not fossilized. You can do a Stewie impression. You can you know who Kanye West is. You know how to you know what iTunes are. You know how to know what an app is. You can talk about Skype and you can talk about Shazam and all this stuff. And you know what a meme is and all this stuff. And they said it gives us something to hold on to. And I thought, yeah. So the principles speak for themselves, and you can get people very, very easily convinced if you just get down to a pretty simple argument. All right, moving along here, because our timing is working out just about right. Amanda Nicole Guidison says, do you think you've underestimated yourself, or have you reached your potential? If you were 18 again, would you take a different road to be better than you are now? I think I probably underestimated myself for most of my life. Funny, because in my 20s and 30s, I was just a roaring ego monster, running around trying to convince everybody how smart I was, and being a general, bootable jerk. And by the way, that's another lesson I learned late in life. Anytime you see somebody bragging about their intellect, that person is, number one, very insecure, and number two, not really super bright. Because anybody who's convinced that, religion is. I had somebody say that one of the comment streams on the What is Truth thing. Somebody said, how can a smart guy like Bill believe in talking snakes and magical ghosts in the sky? And my first thought was, that's something I would have said 15 years ago, 10 years ago even. But now my thought is, am I really talking about talking snakes and invisible ghosts in the sky, or am I not having a conversation that is somewhat deeper than that when I talk about multiple dimensions of a universe, and especially when I talk about the physical quantum evidence that observation changes reality? If observation changes reality, and it does, then who is to say that a sufficiently sophisticated observer cannot change reality to suit? We look at something, we change the spin of a particle, we change the charge of things, we change the subatomic level, and these things cascade up to the normal level. Just our little monkey brains do this just by observing them. When you turn a camera on an experiment, certain experiments change. If we can change reality by looking at it, then it seems just a little bit arrogant to say that, oh no, but we got everything all figured out. It's all figured out. We see this little microscopic section of the electromagnetic spectrum. We look through a cocktail straw at the world, and no. impossible. This is the beginning of wisdom. The beginning of wisdom is understanding your limitations, understanding your limitations. And once I began to understand my limitations, I actually opened my mind. And once I opened my mind, I started seeing possibilities that I didn't see before. And so when I hear that, the first thing I realize is I spent most of my life thinking exactly that same way. And what I was really doing was that same kind of thing that liberals do all the time. And they usually do it with moral superiority, but that's a form of unearned intellectual superiority. Oh, you believe in the talking snake and the ghost in the sky? Well, I believe that certain aspects of the larger truth are in fact possible and becoming maybe even likely. I'm certainly not smart enough to exclude it. And I'm also not smart enough to exclude with one snort the lifetime of thinking that some of the brightest people on the planet have done. You know, if C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien spent their lives thinking about this and coming to certain conclusions, it deserves more than a snort from me. So that's kind of thing about underestimating myself. With all that said, do I think I've reached my full potential? I sure hope not. I hope I'm not going to offend anybody out here. Now we don't have anybody who's any good at sports watching this show. This is a show for nerds and geeks. I've recently, look, folks, honestly, I'll just cut to the chase here. Right now, sitting here in this chair, I'm 55 years old, but really, I'm 7 or 8. Honestly, I'm at the most, I'm 10 years old. I didn't get into my skin until at least 10 years ago, and probably more like 5 or 6, at the most 10 years ago. So I learned late in life what a absolute great, wonderful blessing it is to be a late bloomer. And the thing I was going to say about hoping I'm not offending people is this. When I was a teenager and tracing the unicorn around, and high school doesn't work like a John Hughes movie. The smart guy and the clever guy and the nice guy with the flowers doesn't get the girl. Not ever. Not that I'm aware of. When I was in high school, I really envied these great-looking jocks and the football players, and they got all the girls, and they got everything they wanted. They were popular, and they weren't, hurting for money or food or anything, most of these guys, and they were the lords of creation, and I really envied them. But what I realized is that I believe has got to be the second worst curse that you can inflict on somebody in the modern era. The first worst curse being a trust fund child, because then your life consists of waiting for your parents to die. But if you were the homecoming queen, or if you were the captain of the football team, a quarterback, and you threw the game-winning touchdown to win the state championship in front of your arch rivals on a Friday night, then that's got to be the worst thing that could ever happen to a human being, except being a trust fund child. And think about that. If you thought that your life peaked at 17 and every day of your life you got further and further and further away from that peak glory, and you spent your whole time looking backwards instead of forwards, and I can't imagine it. I do not imagine, if my 80-year-old self came and talked to me, I'm sure he had some things to say. But I cannot imagine a world where I am looking backward, ever. I expect to be looking forward for the rest of my life. I expect that I'll be doing better work until I drop dead, and I expect to drop dead a long time from now. If I didn't have that belief, I wouldn't want to live. So it's great to be a late bloomer, and I have not reached my potential yet. And only recently, Amanda, have I begun to get a feel for what the limits of that potential might be. And the best example is with the Free Frontier, which we're not going to get into tonight. But here's a guy who wanted to go fly a Mars mission, go to the moon, wanted to see his country succeed in space, wanted to live that Sid Mead life that we looked at the beginning. And we're not doing it. And there's these private space companies, and they're not doing it. And so I spent my entire life saying, well, somebody somewhere soon is going to pick up the ball and run with this ball. And nobody has. And then you're left with the shocking realization that it might have to be you. yeah, that's the kind of trouble we're in. That's how desperate we are. We're so desperate now that it might have to be you. And you may think that's a lovely, wonderful, it's kind of horrifying, frankly. Really? But maybe. I mean, what I found out really when it got down to it as I got older and more mature and a little bit wiser was that maybe what a space program needs is not engineers because we have engineers, not administrators because we have administrators. It's not test pilots because we have test pilots, not even money people because we have some of them. Maybe what a private space program needs is simply a guy who can construct and tell a story about why we need this. Maybe that's what it needs, is a guy who has a vision of what it would look like and a guy who really loves it enough to get out there and get other people excited, and next thing you know, they're excited, and next thing you know, it happens. Maybe that's what it's missing. So that's a bit of a wake-up call. And so the other half of the question was, if you were 18 again, would you take a different road to be better than you are now? That is such a deep question, Amanda. On some level, I can obviously imagine a world where I didn't waste so much time, develop so many bad habits, spend so much time spinning wheels. I'm so busy now. I work so hard and I work so many hours. I think about all the time I wasted. It's enough to drive me nuts. But at the same time, here I am, and I'm actually these days starting to feel a little bit like the Emperor. I'm starting to feel lightning come off of my fingertips. I feel like when I'm on my game, I'm good at this. And I had a chance to direct a major movie star, one of the big Bond villains. There's not a whole lot of Bond villains. There's certainly a lot more popes than there are Bond villains. After Apollo astronauts, it's probably the smallest fraternity in the world. And I hadn't had a chance to really do any direction to a real serious actor in quite a long time. And he said, "You were great," and it was, "Thank you." And so all the stuff I want to do with the movies, I'm starting to feel these powers. And we are now at the, I know it's been a transition for 6 weeks now, or probably 3 months and a year when you count the launch of the website. But we are starting to turn the corner from political commentary to political commentary plus the movies. So you're going to start seeing some signs of that in the next couple of weeks. I know I've been saying this for a year, but sometimes these transitions take longer than others, but we're getting there. And then when I'm on a set and we have video running, and we'll be sharing that with all of you guys, when I'm on a set directing actors in stories that I wrote, then I think people will get a chance to see me at what I think I'm best at. We'll find out. 3 to go. Dominique Daniel Hunt asks, are there any morals you seem to lack in your younger years that you would change? And the answer is yes. All of them. I would change all of my morals. I would change them all. If there was something I was doing when I was 25 years old, I can say with some confidence that I would change that immediately. I wasn't a good guy in the 20s. I wasn't a bad guy. I wasn't a cruel guy. Let's put it that way. I wasn't a cruel guy. I never hurt anybody on purpose, but man alive, I did some self-serving things. I did some really, really immoral and self-serving things when I was in my 20s and 30s. Not out of meanness or spite or out of a desire to hurt anybody, but just because I was so lost and so desperate. Desperation will do strange things to people. Emotional desperation, financial desperation will really cause you to do some really appalling things. And I had both, and you'll do things you're not proud of. It's not like, there's a picture of me, dressed up like Margaret Thatcher. No, there's none of that. But just things that I did that I'm not proud of. They were not manly things to do. It wasn't the right thing to do. And the desperation and the loneliness and all the narcissism and all that stuff, it's just a feedback loop. And You get so centered on yourself because you don't have any connections to anything else. You just act in your own interest, and you don't really think about other people. And it's bad. And some people just keep doing it, and some people medicate the pain of that into drugs and alcohol that they never recover from, or gambling, or whatever the case may be. And some people just take their beating and learn a lesson. And I was lucky to be one of those people. And not just lucky either, worked hard. So yes, were there any morals I seemed to lack in my younger years? Yes, I lacked virtually all morals that were of any value. But I always knew the difference between right from wrong, and I never was mean. I was never cruel. I never hurt anybody on purpose. That I'm pretty confident of and pretty proud of. I just was very selfish. Peter Sullivan says, do you even lift, bro? He didn't put the bro in. I had to add the bro because I don't know if you can say, do you even lift without adding bro? Weights. I'll tell you a funny story about that, Paul. Strangely enough, I had a conversation about this just a couple nights ago over dinner. I was a 98-pound weakling. I was in good shape when I was a kid. I was perfect. I was, really ideal weight. I had a suntan, this deep. My hair was blonde as the sun. I was outside body surfing, scuba diving, snorkeling. I was a healthy, perfect weight, perfectly happy kid. Then I hit this growth spurt. My parents got divorced. We moved away from Bermuda, moved to Dade County. I got completely terrorized. Junior high school, I think it was Dave Olson who said junior high school is virtually unsurvivable. And junior high school is the run that the gazelles do down Lion Alley, right? It's designed to kill the weak. That's what junior high school. That's what 8th grade is designed to do, kill the weak. And it was just brutal. And then I got to college, and I was on financial aid for a while. Then that ran out, and I was just barely hanging on. So next thing you know, the lowest. But for a couple years, honestly, I was 6'1". I was 119 pounds. That's concentration camp thin. I knew I was thin, and I was kind of self-conscious about being that thin. But I just saw, and I mean like 3 months ago, some video that somebody converted from Super 8 and put online, and I saw it, and I was just stunned. I was stunned. Really scary. So anyway, then I started getting some weight on, and I started getting a little help with the weight and getting some of these emotional things under control. And I started eating steaks every night, and I started knocking back the insurers. And next thing you know, I'm up to 135, and then I'm up to 160, somewhere in there, 65. I'm 173 now, 171 to 174, right in that ballpark, which is right where I want to be. But here's the point. So one day in 1988, I'm sitting there ruminating on the unicorn, I might add, who was still in far orbit. I still knew how to reach him, her. And I went to see Batman. I went to see the 88 or 89 Batman with Brian Keaton. And I'm watching him, and he's in the Batcave. And I had this thought clear as day, like a lightning bolt entered my head. I was probably 30-ish. 30 seems about right. And it entered my head like a boom, like a lightning bolt. It's like, okay, so Bruce Wayne is very smart, and Bruce Wayne is smart enough to be Batman, and you're smart enough to be Batman, Bill. But Bruce Wayne also has the ability to go out and kick butt, and you don't. So you need to get your scrawny butt to the gym. And so I did, like the next day. And I went every day for 2 years. And if I missed a day, I started to get a little twitchy. And I was working hard too. I mean, I was working on universal machines. I had a pin that was a little bit like this. It's just an Allen wrench, but those of you who've been to a gym, you know what it's like. And it was like almost every week it would like move the pin down. And I was working hard. And so, I was actually bulking up. And I had a friend who said, you got to use free weights, man. They're so much better for you. It's like, I don't want to do free weights. I don't like free weights. I don't like the whole free weight vibe. I don't like the whole, thing. And it's like, no, it's so much better for your balance and your form, and it really, really help. And it's like, So by this point, I'd built up a fair amount of strength on a weight stack, on a universal, where the two arms are welded together, and there's no left and right motion. It's just you and your strength, and it's no form at all. So he said, get to the weights thing. So he's spotting me on the weight stack. So I'm on an incline press in the free weight room, and he put some weight on this thing, and I start doing some incline presses, and I'd been working really hard, so I'd built up some upper body strength. And I said, I need more weight. So he put more weight on, and I'm doing these reps, and I'm trying to get this rep done, and for some reason, because on the Universal they're locked together, my left arm just gave out. And before he could grab me on the spot, I was on the incline press like this, and the left gave out, and all the weights fell off on that side, and I dug my head back into the incline part of the bench, and I ruptured a disc in my neck and herniated the one next to it. And that hurt quite a lot. And got to the point where I couldn't, I was at a movie theater with my mom one night, afternoon about a week later, and she was sitting next to me, and she said something, and I had to turn from the waist like this. Went to chiropractor for a couple years, and then I think I heard it even worse when I was sleeping, and went and had an MRI. And from across the room, the MRI screen was the side of where that blue wall is back there. And I'm walking out of this MRI room, and I can see the monitor where the MRI is just done. And from across the room, with multiple panels on a little screen, I could see my spinal cord go, yeah, that's not so good. It's not good to have that big U-shaped bend in your spinal column, is it? Spinal cord? No. So I had a surgeon take the disc out, and he did the fusion. He was the best guy in the country. I started counting backwards from 100 at 2:30 in the afternoon. By 4 o'clock, I was in ICU, and I had my eyes closed. I couldn't open my eyes, but I remember I could move my fingers and toes. That was a good sign. An hour later, I'm in my semi-private room. There's a guy next to me who's wolfing down this pork chop dinner. I wasn't allowed to eat anything because of the anesthesia. The nurse comes in and says, would you like a damp sponge to suck on? Actually, what I'd like is a large Coke and 2 of those pork chop dinners if you can trot them out. Okay. I'm not making this up. 24 hours after this guy did this incision on my neck and fused these 2 vertebrae together, 24 hours later, I was coming out of Sonny's Barbecue on Archer Road in Gainesville, and I had barbecue sauce all over my face, and I'm going to pay the bill. And I looked down in the booth, and there's the surgeon who operated on me. He's, Bill? I said, Doctor, whatever his name was. He said, how you feeling? I said, feeling great. Well, you look good. I still had the big patch, where you could still see that kind of goopy stuff they put on for the thing. And it's like, I guess I'll see you on Thursday when I come in for my follow-up visit. He goes, yeah. And so I leave, and then when I see him on Thursday, his son says, who was that guy? And the doctor said, I just fused 2 vertebrae on that guy's neck 23 hours ago. So he was a genius. The point is that from that time, if I go to the gym and work out really hard, it actually locks my neck up and gets it kind of sore. With all of that said, over in that corner, right over there, yep, right here, is going to be a weight machine. We're going to do it slowly. We're not going to blow all our money at once, but we're going to put a little weight stack in there, and then I'm going to buff myself out because I have to be buff in order to maintain my youthful vigor, because if I'm going to walk on the moon, I got to get going, and time is getting late. So yeah, no doubt we'll have cheesecake shots available for a price. So I used to lift Paul, and then I didn't, and I will again. And then finally, Michelle Tongyai has the question of the night. It's the last question, and it's the question of the night. Any regrets? Yes, Michelle, hundreds. But I can say this with real certainty. I really, given this a fair amount of thought, many regrets, many. And I cannot think of a single case where one of those regrets was over something that I did. I don't believe I regret anything that I did. I have enormous regrets over things I did not do. I think that's almost universally true for me, and I think it's probably true for most people. I look at opportunities I had. There have been times where I've been out on dates or back in the day, I didn't have any idea what I was doing. I said, you dummy, that girl was like really into you. It's like, nah. Oh, no, she was. Really? Yeah. Why didn't you do something about that? Because you're a chicken, that's why. And I'll tell you something. One thing I learned from that was I learned probably in my 30s, after reviewing all of the regrets that I'd had for the actions I didn't take, that while I always regretted not taking a shot, I never regretted taking the shot. And even if you took a shot, you never got your face slapped, and people, and no one ever went screaming out into the night. That taking a shot always was the best play. even if it didn't work, it was better than not. You could live with yourself. And I know it's a hard thing to say. Look, ladies, you know, I'm not like I'm Bill Clinton. There's no like attempted rape stories here. I know the difference between yes and no, and I know when people are in the mood to be asked the question. But every time I acted, I was very pleased with the result. Usually went well, and when it didn't, I was pleased with the result. When I didn't act, I regretted it badly, and it's always inaction, and that's obviously just the cheesy personal dating side. On the professional side, I learned pretty early, leap, and the net will appear. That I learned pretty quick when I left my regular paying job to work at PJTV. That was leap, and the net will appear. Going to Declaration Entertainment was leap, and then it will appear. Starting BillWhittle.com was leap, and the net will appear. It's 1,000 times more complex than I thought it would be. Infinitely harder than I thought it would be. And absolutely far more rewarding than I thought it would be to run your own business. And as many of you know, we had a lot of teething problems. And once I realized the extent of them and took responsibility and control for them, and of course once Astro Girl Desiree Gabrielle came along too, to help me, we tried to put out those fires, made a major effort to put them out and keep people happy. And now it is unbelievably rewarding. And in another week or two, you're going to see the results of this. And I'm working really hard and spending a lot of time, and I love it. I just love it. I just love it. I can't argue with any of it. So if I had a final thing I would say to my 18-year-old self, I would say, son, you are about to go through a quarter century of hell. And it's going to be rough. And the good news is, apparently you're strong enough to take it. And the better news is, when you get through on the other side of this thing, you're going to be damn near, I don't want to say invincible, but untouchable. You will have a kind of mental toughness that will suit you very well, because you're going to go out and do difficult things, and you're going to attract a lot of love, and you're going to attract a lot of hate, and you're going to need the mental toughness to be able to deal with this. You're going to have the courage to go out there, some small physical courage, but mostly moral courage. You're going to have the moral courage to go out into the world and say what you think is true, and know that there's going to be big consequences because large numbers of people don't want you to say what you think is true. So you go through this. If I could have made a deal with myself, I would have said, here's the deal. 25 years of hell, 25 years of loneliness and frustration and anonymity and a lot of self-directed anger and just hardship and just stress. Stress. You won't be able to pay your bills, and you'll worry about the rent for 25 years, and you're just gonna watch other people do well, and you're gonna just get deeper in the weeds, and you're gonna have this onrushing dread for 25 years. That's the part that happens. If you decide to get through it, on the other end, you will be mentally very tough. You'll be well versed in. You'll have soaked up enough experience and enough information to have a remarkable grasp of issues, I would say, only because of the pain you're about to go through. Because you'll be in so much pain for so long, you will not ever forget other people who are in pain and need, and you won't forget that that when you talk about things like people who are dependent or addicted, they won't just be examples. They'll be real people who have real problems and who need to fix those problems and who are responsible for fixing those problems. But they'll be actual people, and it won't be easy, and you'll know this because you'll be one of them. And I think finally I would say, if you can get to the other end of that 25-year period, you will, if you can get to the end of the 25-year period, you will have the emotional resilience and courage, and I would say generosity, emotional generosity. That's probably a good word. To really, really be there. I mean, you'll have the emotional generosity to be able to share things like I'm sharing now, because you'll realize that talking about things like this, while certainly not pleasant, are valuable to other people. And the other people who this may be valuable to are the people who make your incredible life possible. That'll be the deal. You'll owe them. You know, the people are going to pay you. They're going to pay you to hear what you have to say. And so in return for that, you're going to have an obligation to speak the truth. You're going to have an obligation to be open about things that drove you, because some people will be helped by this. You owe them. You know, there you go. For example, I just look over into the comment section here, and there's somebody named Mama Huevo who I've never seen before, and there's just an endless series of go F yourself, only it's not F. It's go F yourself, go F yourself, go F yourself, go F yourself, go F yourself. Well, Mama Huevo, guess what? You're too late. I've been doing it for 25 years, and I don't need your advice on how to go F myself. I've F'd myself for 25 years. I'm pretty pretty much past that point. I'm glad you're watching, though, because people are saying get out of here. I don't want her to get out of here or him to get out of here. You know, it's actually really great. This is a perfect way to end this particular show, to have somebody come in here and start screaming like that, because what it means is one of two things. I suspect I know what it means. I've said something that has hit this person in a way, here it is again, hit them in a way that's challenged things that they believe in. It's challenged their worldview, it's challenged them, and it's filled them with a burning rage and hatred. And the beautiful thing about my life is I don't have to have a burning rage and hatred towards people I disagree with. I'm not consumed by it. I disagree with them for reasons that are obvious and external. I don't have a burning rage and hatred for a person that comes into a room full of complete strangers and starts screaming at somebody they've never met, telling them to go F themselves. I genuinely feel sorry for them. I do. I think it's got to be a terrible thing to live in a world where you are so consumed by rage and hate that the existence of somebody who disagrees with you causes you such psychological trauma that you have to lash out at it. It's kind of remarkable, really, if you think about it. I mean, I disagree with progressives, and I think they have terribly destructive policies, and it bothers me enormously. And so I speak my mind, and I talk about what I think is right. But I don't go to progressive websites, and I don't go to progressive speakers and tell them to go F themselves, because it doesn't matter to me what they think. They're entitled to think whatever they want to. They're having a different opinion about something doesn't affect me, because I don't care. I don't care what Mama Huevo thinks of me. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care. I do care what I think about me, and I do care what a very, very small number of people think about me. But what that person thinks about me, I don't care at all. And I'll go one step further about this. When I started doing this, my girlfriend at the time said, do you have to be so opinionated? Because you get 99 great comments and then one hate comment. And she was worried about me. She was worried about my safety. And I said, you know, if I write an essay about how delicious apple pie is, within 5 minutes, the cherry pie people are going to call me a Nazi. So you can't have an opinion in the age of instant feedback where millions of people are exposed to your ideas. You cannot have an opinion where people are not going to disagree. And I guess if you're a cherry pie manufacturer, you might get to the point where you have to say, F you, you apple pie loving son of a bitch. I don't want to live that way, and I don't live that way. I don't live that way. So in closing, I will say, I try not to look at the YouTube comments because there's some real dense people out there, but I do occasionally. I love the Stratosphere Lounge because these are people who I agree with, who've been so supportive and kind to me. But let me just tell you this about this: when I go to the YouTube channel, And I see people saying, F you, Bill, because what you say about the Russians, about the murderers in the Lubyanka and the murderers in the NKVD and all of these people. When I hear people get to that same level of rage and hatred, I realize I don't want to be liked by those people. I don't want to be liked by Russian murderers. I don't want to be liked by jihadis. I don't want to be liked by people who are champions of this ongoing slavery and murder of socialism. I don't want to be liked by them. If people like Mama Huevo like me, I'm doing something wrong. I'm really doing something wrong if somebody that ignorant and that hate-filled and that aggressive and that sad, if somebody like that has a problem with me, that's good. And if they don't, if they, oh, he's a swell guy, I'm doing something wrong. And the reason I say this is because I don't go to Bill Maher's website, and I don't go to Michael Moore's website and heckle him, because I don't care what Michael Moore thinks. It's not my job to shut Michael Moore up. It's my job to make a better argument than Michael Moore and let people make their own decisions. So this kind of thing, it would have bothered me. It probably would have bothered me just 4, 5, 6 years ago. Doesn't bother me now. One thing that somebody said to me once, and this really, really rang my bell. It's an old saw, it's an old aphorism, but it doesn't make it any less true. Somebody said to me once, Billy, if you're getting flack, it's because you're over the target. And I thought, man alive, a guy who's an Air Force guy can understand that. That's exactly right. If I'm getting flack, it means I'm over the target. If somebody comes in here and starts saying F you this, F you that, then I said something that so profoundly challenged their worldview that it's causing them heart palpitations. In my more petty moments, when I see somebody like this who's so completely aggro and wound up, I do kind of want to send them an industrial, what do they call those platters? Those, a pallet. I want to send them a pallet of bacon and donuts and another pallet of Red Bulls and see if I can't get that heart to go just a couple beats faster and, kind of fun to watch. But I don't care. I don't care. I really don't care. And I suspect if I knew them, oh, there they are again. I suspect if I'd met Mama Huevo, the more I got to know that person, the happier I would be that they hate my guts. In fact, of that I am crystal sure. Of that I'm 100% sure. The more I get to know somebody who walks into a room full of strangers, and rather than saying, here's why I think you're wrong, just starts screaming, F you, F you, you F you, F you, F you, F you, all of you. I kind of want to be hated. I actually do want to be hated by somebody like that. Really. I do. Because if I'm liked by somebody like that, I'm probably doing something wrong. Anyway, Mama Huevos, I'm so sorry to disappoint you. I know you put a lot of energy and a lot of thought into the go F yourselves, and I'm sure it's the best you can do. But good luck to you. And I hope... by the way, Mama Huevo is calling me scrub. I'm going to assume that scrub is some kind of horrific insult in Argentinian or Portuguese or maybe in Mandarin or maybe scrub is like a mispronunciation of some obscure kind of, I don't know, Iraqi word or something. But to me, calling me scrub is the same as calling me scissors. Okay. Why don't you just, maybe you could send me a memo, Mama Huevo. You could send me a Mama Huevo memo, a Mama Huevo memo about what scrub means to you, and then you get a chance to explain to me why it's the mortal insult that I'm sure you think it is. Scrub to me implies cleanliness, although I'm sure it doesn't imply that to you. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a little bit over time here. I have to boogie on out. Really great show. Enormously enjoyed it. And I think every time I pop the questions out to to the hive mind, we get better shows and better answers. So I'm going to look at some of the other suggestions. We'll do some of those as theme shows. I like the theme shows. They're kind of fun. Keeps me a little more on the rails than I usually am. But with that said, it's 90 minutes of fun and excitement here in the slightly disassembled but rapidly finishing Stratosphere Lounge, which would be lit and furniturized in the not-too-distant future. Progress is being made. Anyway, thanks all of you for joining us. Mama Huevo, thank you especially. I couldn't have closed the show better myself. Seriously. There's no better way. As a matter of fact, I'll go even further. Mama Huevo, there is simply no better way for me to have closed the show on information I would have given my 18-year-old self than to say, number one, when you're right about something, people who are wrong are going to get upset. Number two, if you're taking flack, it means you're over the target. Number three, if you say you like apple pie, the cherry pie people are going to call you a Nazi. And number four, when people are really, really angry about something you say, you have caused them to think about things they had never thought about before. Who knows? After 300 or 400 years of intense study, they may get to a point where they can express an opinion with facts and data. Hope springs eternal, ladies and gentlemen, on our side of the fence anyway. Mama Huevo, whoever you are, have a good evening. You really don't need to be this angry. I'm really not a threat to you or your worldview at all. Am I? As for the rest of you, thank you very much for giving me this life. It's been amazing, as always. And we'll see you next time. We'll be here. That was number 78. And 79 is going to get even better. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.